Governor Whitmer lays out her second-term priorities. We'll talk about what's realistic, what's a dream, and everything in between. And how do you know a human wrote these words? It's getting harder to tell. This morning, how artificial intelligence like ChatGPT may change our lives. Today is Sunday, January 29th, 2023, and this is Flashpoint. Hi there and welcome to Flashpoint. I'm Christy McDonald. Thanks so much for joining me. Devin is away on assignment this week. And what a week it's been. January has officially decided to show up at the end of the month with a dumping of snow. Skiers and kids out of school rejoiced. We continue to shovel. But also this week, we're seeing the political agenda take shape in Lansing. Governor Gretchen Whitmer delivers her State of the State address. We'll talk about her priorities in her second term, tax cuts, gun control, education spending, and what kind of debate it sets up in the legislature. Then artificial intelligence. It is developing faster than you may realize. ChatGPT is making headlines around the world. The AI tool is being used from everything from complicated coding to writing poetry. It even just passed an exam at the Wharton Business School. So I logged onto it, and it is truly fascinating how fast it works. It's also slightly scary, and it opens up a lot of questions like how this could change the way we learn and how we work. We will explore that as well. It's all just ahead on this Sunday's Flashpoint. Well, we love to cover policy and politics here on the show, and it was a week for both as Governor Gretchen Whitmer gave her State of the State address. She listed off her priorities from tax breaks to universal pre-K to gun control. But will the wish list become reality, and just how quickly the legislature has already started to move a bit? So let's get to it with our roundtable this week. Nancy Kaffer, columnist with the Detroit Free Press. It's good to see you, Nancy. Also with us, Chad Livengood, politics editor at the Detroit News. Hey, Chad. Hey. Portia Roberson is back here, the CEO of Focus Hope and former congressional candidate in the 13th. It's good to see you, Portia. And Tom Leonard joining us, former state rep and former Speaker of the House.
Thank you.
All right, so we have everybody in place here. I want to first off just back up and go around and kind of give me what your impressions of. This was a pretty important event on Wednesday night, going into a second term for the governor and also really with the makeup of the legislature this time around. I'm going to start with you, Nancy.
So I thought her delivery was really great. She is really grown as a speaker. I thought it was really natural, relaxed, seemed off the cuff at times, very confident. You got that majority sitting there watching her. I thought it was extremely consistent with how she governs. She is, I believe, personally progressive, but governs as a centrist. She tends to focus on those, what she calls dinner table issues, schools, roads, helping folks go to college, things like that. Veering a little into some more Democratic-specific social territory, like repealing the 1931 abortion ban and maybe some gun reform. But, I thought it was generally a very well-crafted speech to do all the things she needed it to do.
What did you think of the message, Chad, and where she wanted to go?
It was a lot of appeal to Republicans. Interesting enough, when she laid out this proposal, let's make preschool universal. Everyone can go to preschool under the state program.
It made it a business issue.
Yes, but the state that program that she cites is one the Republicans, including the former representative here, greatly expanded, and not one single Republican stood up to applaud it, and very few even clapped at the idea of universal preschool. So it really did show a little bit of the dividing line, but she was trying to make that olive branch something that most people agree upon.
And we're going to talk about that in education and where some of the funding and where the teachers are going to be coming for that universal pre-K. Portia, what were your thoughts when you kind of look at the scope of what she wanted to accomplish and really, again, a very diverse legislature in front of her?
Very diverse. I have to agree with Chad. I was surprised by the fact that not too many people stood up, not too many Republicans stood up, because she said from the very beginning that she does not consider the vote in November to be a mandate. She really wants to get things done on a bipartisan way. And so it was surprising to see that some of the things that I thought that she would announce that would get support did not. And so I think what she learned is probably that it's going to be still a little difficult. She can push things through, but in terms of getting everybody to come to the table and support some of her ideas and thoughts about where we go in the future, it's going to be a little bit tougher than maybe we imagined.
Yeah, those slim majorities. And Tom, as a former Speaker of the House, getting your input on this and what she needed to do in this speech.
And in politics, it's not always about what you say, but how you say it. And the governor did exactly what she had to do on Wednesday. On Thursday, I got a couple text messages from some of the Republican legislators, and I think their comment was something to the effect of, wasn't that a great presidential speech? And I think they thought they were knocking her, but if the other party is saying that about you, that is the best compliment that you can have. She did exactly what she was supposed to do. She connected, she was articulate, and as I've said, I was wondering if she was going to go in and spike the ball after how she performed this November, and instead she walked in an old school Barry Sanders fashion. She scored a touchdown, handed the ball back to the ref. She walked out. She did exactly what she had to do on Wednesday.
So if this is a moderate mood of why can't we just all get along and work together, let's talk about some of the things that are already happening in Lansing right now when we talk about tax cuts. We talk about the retirement tax and the earned income tax credit. Chad, were you surprised to see the fast movement already? And we've had Republicans vote along with Democrats in this regard.
You're not going to get very far if you're voting against some of these things. If you are in a marginal district, and some of these Republicans still are in marginal districts, they could have this used against them. So it wasn't really surprising that a few voted for it. The speed of which you only got so much time to do this agenda, and there's some other big, huge issues kind of looming. They got to make a big controversial vote next week, probably on changing the presidential primary, and the controversy in that they need Republican votes to make it actually happen. So they're trying to get some of the so-called easy things. Tax relief, $1 billion of tax relief. A lot of people can agree. If you got $9 billion of surplus funds sitting around, some of that ought to go back to the taxpayers. So they're trying to sort of hit the easy ones first.
Yeah, it seems like everyone would get a win on that, Nancy.
Yeah, you know, it's important, I think, in the early days of a term, not just to find things you can agree on, but establish structures that provide opportunity for you to agree and move forward on things. Start to build those relationships and start to kind of form that pattern. It's especially when there's been a lot of contention, showing, getting into the habit of agreeing and finding out that it doesn't really hurt you is a great pattern to set. So no, I think it's a productive and a good sign that they're moving forward on things they can agree on.
Some of the friction points that I'm thinking about, Tom, will be looking around business incentives. And is that what you're hearing right now from Republicans?
Well, and that's going to be a big issue for the governor, and that's something she is going to need Republican support for. I mean, there are many Democrats in that caucus that do not believe that we should be taking taxpayer dollars and giving it to big corporations. And many of them feel very strongly about that. She's going to have Republican support moving forward if she wants to move forward with incentives.
Yeah, but Portia, when we talk about the investment in the state of Michigan, the tax base, and then trying to lure manufacturing or the next gen EV, plants that we're looking to come in, that might have to be, here's the incentive money.
Yeah, I think, we're in competition with all the other states. And so I think there's going to have to be some incentive to make us step up and end up being in a winning position. I think we've seen that before. We know we're going to have to do a little bit of that. We talked a little bit about the fact that social issues, I think, are going to be important to her. And I think Nancy brought that up in talking about the repeal of the 1931 Abortion Act and codifying that. The reality of it is that people who are talking about not only investing in the state, but also moving to the state are interested in those issues as well, or have to be, because otherwise people won't come here.
And expanding Elliot Larson,
Absolutely.
and when she did say, Chad, bigotry is bad for business, and you saw half the chamber maybe not standing up, what was the thought that ran through you?
I thought this was an appeal. She said, I'm looking at you, Ohio and Indiana. I think she was actually looking at Florida and Ron DeSantis, a presumptive Republican presidential candidate who has been waging a bit of a war at times on gender identity and sexual orientation being talked about in schools. I thought it was really she didn't have to say Florida, but she did say Florida.
And all of that. All right, well, stay put. We're going to be talking about education. And we are also not done because the common sense gun laws the governor is supporting, how is that made to divide the legislature? Grab a second cup of coffee. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Here's a quick tip to help you make ends meet.
We all do it, impulse grocery buys, right? But they can really add up at the checkout. So what can you do to save? Well, make a list, stick to it, or use curbside pickup to save even more.
Check out the Help Me Hank page and click on Detroit for more.
It's Allstate Home Leisure's Home Makeover event. Beat the summer rush with preseason savings of up to $2,500 on hundreds of above-ground pools. Complete premium packages starting at only $99 per month, plus 36-month special financing. Only at Allstate Home Leisure by Watson's.
Welcome to DraftKings Casino, the home of blackjack. Get in on the thrill of the hit, the split, the double down. Enjoy the largest library of blackjack games in the industry at your fingertips. Spanish 21, live dealer, vacation blackjack, retro blackjack, and much more. Download the DraftKings Casino app, use the promo code, and get a 100% deposit match up to $2,000 in casino bonus funds. Action's so good, why play blackjack anywhere else?
think as if it were you on the other side.
If I see something good around the country, we're adopting it.
It's hard.
We are really, really close to a tipping point.
That is astronomically insane.
Solutionaries, the creative thinkers and doers working to make the world a better place. Subscribe at youtube.com/solutionaries.
This winter, stay safe, stay informed, stay ahead of the storm with forewarned weather. Expect more from ExactTrack 4D radar and 4-zone weather, because winter weather changes hour by hour and neighborhood by neighborhood.
A dramatic change in the weather. I'm tracking strong winds, rain,
Plus, forewarned weather alert days, earlier warning alerting you to issues days in advance. Accurate forecasts can make your life easier. So expect more with forewarned weather. Always watching, always tracking.
Welcome back with our roundtable talking about the governor's State of the State address. And I want to get to education. I think it was interesting what she brought up. She talked about tutoring, and we were talking about the K-12 crisis, and then also universal pre-K. And she put kind of some timing on both of them. She wanted the tutoring to move forward by the spring and universal pre-K to be in place by the time she ended her term. Nancy, let me start with you. When you heard some of these things, you would think we can all agree about getting kids back on track in Michigan because of the abysmal scores we have here right now.
Yeah, it seems like an area we should all be able to agree. But even if we get to that point of all agreeing to do it, I think the biggest challenge here is capacity. We have a teacher shortage. I think the results of pandemic learning loss are really apparent. There's not really a way to deny that. Even in affluent districts, test scores are showing that kids have lost as much as a fifth of a year in the knowledge that we have collectively agreed they should have. And, I think there's this very clear case for tutoring and one-on-one interventions. Where are those tutors coming from? We have a teacher shortage. We don't necessarily have a lot of unemployed folks right now. Unemployment's very high. Going around looking for jobs. Where do we tap those folks to come in and do that work?
And I think that that's a big concern right now, Portia. And we know that supports are needed wrapped around kids, especially our young kids, and getting them into the programs.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question. The shortage is there, but we have to make sure we do this. I mean, when we talk about an investment in the state of Michigan and employers coming here, people are not going to be here if we don't find a way to make sure that we can have good sort of programs for young people and little people, right? We see it all the time at Focus Hope, where we have people waiting to get into our program. And I always say you have to get children ready to be competitive at kindergarten, because we really are talking about a global economy these days, and children need to be prepared for that. And we know that Head Start programs, early Head Start, universal pre-K are all the things that measure or that create success for the little ones.
And Chad, we've talked for a very long time, probably about 8 or 9 years. We've seen study after study after study here in Michigan with business leaders saying, look, we've got to get this on track, and we have to make sure that the achievement is better, that the graduation rates are better. What do you think it's going to take now to make sure that some of these programs get into place?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see in the speech the other night any kind of vision for that. I saw a couple of targeted programs at pre-K, at community college, associate degrees. There wasn't some grand plan to get more and more engineers from University of Michigan to stay here and invent the next technology to make the robot car work right. I mean, that's the challenge. That is Michigan's a huge challenge, is to retain that talent and to retain the auto industry, knowledge industry that is built around that. Not just the big three. We've got like 15 OEMs, manufacturers of all the different automakers that have operations here, and they have jobs they need. And if they can't find them here, they will go somewhere else. And increasingly, as the pandemic shows, you can sell mortgages for Dan Gilbert in Denver if you want, or you can also run an IT operation for GM in Tahoe.
Someplace else, absolutely. So, Tom, where's the stickiness here? When we think about Republicans and being on board with a universal pre-K, and then also with the money going to tutoring programs and getting that done quickly, do you sense that there's going to be some friction from Republicans?
There may be, but I will tell you they ought to get behind some of these proposals, especially universal pre-K. I mean, she struck a right balance. She's hitting the right issues. If she starts going after things like school choice, charter schools, that's going to be a problem. Universal pre-K, that's a winner. And one of the big issues that we've tried working on in the state for years is third grade reading. Everybody knows in the first 3 years, kids learn to read. In the years following, they're learning beyond that. Universal pre-K, if you can get those kids into school a year earlier, I don't see how that would hurt third grade reading scores going forward.
Yeah, you need that literacy. All right, let's talk and end this up by talking about common sense gun reforms, because I think that that is going to be one of the tough places in the legislature to find some kind of common ground. We're talking about safe storage, universal background checks, and red flag laws. Nancy, let me start with you. It would seem like that this is the time when you have a trifecta that they might be able to, Democrats might be able to push something forward.
Yeah, and you know, polling shows year after year, this is very consistent, that most Michiganders, most Americans, we're not different than the rest of the country, support this group of things we call common sense gun laws, safe storage, red flag laws, universal background checks. It's true across party, it's true between gun owners and non-gun owners. So the idea, like, this issue is contentious because it's being made contentious. There's actually broad popular support for this, but I think maybe some of the folks who fund candidates find it more contentious than the average voter does. So if these things don't move forward, it's really important to look at why this is happening.
Chad, what do you think about this?
There's the argument that a gun is sitting in a home and ought to have a lock on it. A lot of people think that's just kind of common sense, and so. But to Nancy's point, a lot of the opposition just gets drummed up and essentially astroturfed into Lansing, and that's where we'll see if the Democrats can hold their own here, because look, they only have a 2-vote majority in the House and 2-vote difference in the Senate. There's not a lot of room, and we just saw the other day when a representative's wife had a baby and he had to drive 2 hours across the state in order to vote on something. They had to hold up a bill for hours because they just don't have a tiebreaker in the House, and so there's not a lot of room for error here, and that's going to make actually management of the House of Representatives very difficult for this new Speaker, Joe Tate.
I was just going to say, good luck, Joe. It's all on you. All right, Portia, let me ask you in terms of how can we agree what common sense really means?
Well, I don't want to steal my friend's thunder, but he mentioned a couple days ago the mental health aspect of this, and I think that's another area where we can all agree that we need to address mental health around gun control. I think, as they have both said, that, you know, people agree that we need to do something. This is a time where we keep watching these mass shootings, and we all feel, I can't believe that there would be anybody that disagrees, that we all feel something has to be done. The time is now to strike while the iron is hot.
Tom, you're going to get the last word on this, 30 seconds.
And absolutely, I mean, that is where the middle ground can be found, is with mental health reform. We have a crisis in this state. Jails just in the past few years have gone from about 20% capacity suffering from mental health issues to now above 70, 80%. When they go to prison and they suffer from a mental health disease, the cost of the inmate goes from about $40,000 a year to well over $100,000. Politicians need to address this issue.
Yeah, it's time to really watch Lansing. Tom Leonard, Portia Roberson, Chad Livengood, and Nancy Kaffer, thanks so much for joining me. It's good to see you. Well, coming up next, the artificial intelligence tool that is making headlines around the world. ChatGPT may be writing your kids' college essays, and it just passed a Wharton Business School exam. How AI could change the way that we learn and work. That's when we come right back. Stay with me.
Hi, I'm Rachel Stewart, president of Gardner White. There are more reasons why Gardner White is your #1 furniture store. More designer brands, more bestsellers, and all the latest trends for every budget. In stock and ready with free same-day delivery. More styles with free custom orders. We have more for every room in your home with the lowest prices and the lowest payments, period. If you want style and want more, come see why Gardner White is Detroit's #1 furniture and mattress store.
Hey, I'm here to say new FanDuel customers bet $5, get $150. Training montage. Can't you see? I'm doing this kick for all of us. You got a leg, don't you? Use it.
FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
Forewarned weather is here. The most accurate forecast in Metro Detroit with ExactTrack 4D radar, exclusive technology that gives you up-to-the-minute changes in your neighborhood so you know what's coming and when. Forewarned weather alert days, alerting you to issues days in advance. And 4-zone weather, because what it looks like here could be different from here. Forewarned weather warns you not just about the bad days, but the good days too, so you can enjoy all that Southeast Michigan has to offer. Forewarned weather, always watching, always tracking.
Hey, want in on a cool club? Become a WDIV Insider. You'll get a voice in Local 4's news coverage, fun giveaways, access to exclusive content, and more. And membership is free. Just go to clickondetroit.com/insider. We think you'll like it.
In order to deal with the problems of today, we must be more innovative.
There's obviously better solutions out there that we need to start exploring.
Rents are going up and up and up and up.
Great Florida REIT is under attack.
When great value is out, it's a problem.
Solutionaries, the creative thinkers and doers working to make the world a better place. Subscribe at youtube.com/solutionaries.
The stories are coming in fast and furious about the new artificial intelligence tool called ChatGPT. And since its release in November, people are interfacing with it to do everything from write computer code to poetry. Universities and schools are trying to figure out how to regulate it or if students should use it at all. And among some of the more alarming achievements of the chatbot, it passed an exam at the prestigious Wharton Business School and nearly passed the U.S. medical licensing exams. When I started asking the chatbot to write some television scripts, well, it was pretty eerie how quick and fairly accurate they were, which got me to thinking about how this type of AI is changing the way we work and the way we learn. Joining me now by Zoom is Kentaro Toyama. He is a professor of community information at the University of Michigan School of Information and the author of the book Geek Heresy: Rescuing Social Change from the Cult of Technology. Kentaro, thank you so much for joining me. It's good to see you.
Thank you, Christy. Thanks for having me.
All right, so before we launch in on ChatGPT, explain to us all what generative AI actually is and how it works.
Effectively, it's the class of AI that is trained to generate new and original content that, in the case of ChatGPT, is basically any kind of text that a human being could generate.
So when you started going into ChatGPT, what were your first impressions? And I know that you have worked on AI for Microsoft about 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's right. I actually did a PhD in artificial intelligence, and I did a lot of research in the early days of AI. And I will say that ChatGPT is amazing. When I was in graduate school 25 years ago, I did not think that I would be living to see the day when technologies like this were possible.
And I think that the rapidity of how it generates certain things, it doesn't interface. I asked, can we be friends? And it told me no. And there were some inaccuracies in some of the things that I asked it to do. But how are you seeing this potentially change the way that we're working right now?
I mean, I would say we are on the cusp of what some people call the singularity, which is the moment in which artificial intelligence is as good as human intelligence in almost all the ways that we think of intelligence, and then eventually becomes better and better and smarter and smarter. With ChatGPT, the conversations you can have are one thing, but it can basically generate any kind of text on just about any topic in any style. So I just tried write a Shakespearean sonnet about Channel 4 news anchors, and it spit it out within 30 seconds.
That's funny. I asked it to write a poem about Detroit as well, and it was lovely. It was very good. And so then I'm thinking about some of the jobs that might be phased out, and we're already seeing some numbers that 30% of professional workers have used ChatGPT in these last couple of months in just certain assignments.
I mean, one thing is anybody online can try it. So I encourage everybody just to try it just to see how good it is. And remember that this is a computer program that is effectively putting out responses that you could expect of any adult with a lot of education. I do think that the immediate consequence is significant for anybody who does writing as part or all of their job. That includes lawyers, includes copy editors, includes journalists, includes professors. It's hard to imagine what all of the consequences will be.
So I guess the next question is regulation and what we should be looking at, because it feels like this is moving quickly. And I know that you have studied it and you've watched it transpire, so maybe not as quickly for you, but how it is exploding on the scene. And we hear, sure, that BuzzFeed is going to be using it to generate its lists, and how that is maybe going to be changing some of our communication.
Absolutely. I mean, I think, at this point, this technology is really outpacing our ability to regulate it and to legislate the right kinds of guardrails around it. I mean, at the very minimum, it seems like the time is ripe to have a law that basically says anything that is computer generated needs to come with a very prominent note that it is that way. One of the large classes of problems that technologies like ChatGPT can lead to is just large-scale fraud of any kind. Already we receive all kinds of emails that we know are scams, But imagine those scams getting better and better and better, and we can't tell, when things are coming from our families and our friends versus people who are in fact, or even computers that are in fact just scams.
Yeah, and it is so conversational, which leads me to my next point of looking at how it's interfacing with our students, because there are a lot of kids and college students that have already accessed this, and maybe they're not writing the essays for them, but they're able to set things up. So then I think about, should we be learning how to work with it? Should teachers say, this is a tool, let's ask ChatGPT how to generate an outline for an essay, see what the computer brings us, and then try to then work our own way using what, pen and paper at this point?
Right. I do think that teachers are one of the first groups to be directly affected by ChatGPT. As you mentioned, basically this technology enables very easy kind of what you might call tech plagiarism. Because, the text isn't necessarily out there. So as a teacher, you can't even Google for somebody's writing to see if it's something that's already out there or not. A lot of the commentary in education has suggested that we should use it as a tool to teach, and I think that's true. But like with everything in education, there's a degree to which all of us need to learn the basics before we get to a point where we're using the tools. We all need to know the multiplication tables before we start using calculators. And I think ChatGPT presents a challenge of the same kind for all of writing.
Some people want to put their head in the sands and say, why don't we just not do this? We should just back away from this. Where would you put, in the last couple of seconds that we have left, Kentaro, on the scale of technology innovation through time?
Personally, I am much more worried about the great harms that technologies like this might cause than the benefits. And so I do think that we need to find ways to slow them down. I don't know about banning them altogether, but I think we need regulation that says, hey, we need to pause and think through the impacts and think about the regulation we want before we really enable these technologies to get out there.
Yeah, it's something we have to think about. Kentaro Toyama, thank you so much from the University of Michigan for joining me. And thanks to all of our guests here on Flashpoint today. Devin will be back at the big desk next week for all of us at Local 4 News. I'm Christy McDonald. Take care. We'll see you next time.